ReZero, Volume 3, Chapter 1, Part 2. Subaru Natsuki's Restart. Good morning! The weather's great today, perfect for laundry. Let's make this a happy day. Subaru raised a shrill hip hip hurrah to welcome the arrival of the rising sun. It was his fifth go at his second morning in Roswell Manor. He stood in the middle of the garden, his body bathed in morning sunlight as he twisted his upper body all about. He used the popular morning warm-up exercise to get blood circulating through his whole body, making full use of the energy he had gained from sleep. Yes! Victory! Finally, he thrust both hands into the sky and shouted in triumph as he finished the start of another day. Subaru vigorously wiped away the light sweat on his brow and turned around with a smile. Amelia smiled back, albeit tersely, standing in the corner of the garden as she engaged in her daily conversation with lesser spirits under the shade of a tree. You really are energetic in the morning. Hey, don't talk like it's all me here. Put your back into it, Amelia-ton. Puck, Amelia's little cat spirit, was hovering alongside her, cleaning his face with his paw. When I see him clean his face like that, I'm like, he's seriously a cat. I guess spirits get sleepy, too, huh? He looks half asleep there.
You sleep when you're tired, too, don't you? When mana, the source of our vital power, fades away, well, it's close enough. If we're not getting enough mana...
Puck yawned generously. Amelia put her hand to her mouth and yawned a little, too. Both up late, huh? You were staying up talking to a boy you like, weren't you? Let me in on it. Huh? Which girl do I like? It's embarrassing to say. You see... Subaru folded his arms, looking down, as he glanced a little at Amelia. All right, Amelia said, waving casually at Subaru's act. I like Puck. Puck likes me. The end. Mutual love? Is there any room for me in there?
Not even a little, meow. My charm sets Leah's heart aflutter. You might not be a bad catch, Subaru, but all that is wasted before me. You should just give up on Leah, right? Meow meow.
Subaru closed on Puck, glaring down at him with reproach, but Amelia's fingers caught one ear of each of them before they could start anything. Don't get carried away. I'm going to be upset if that's all you two do. Ow, she's upset. Ow! Subaru and Puck meekly endured Amelia's punishment together. When Amelia let go of their ears, they both rubbed their aching heads as she stood before them, hands on her hips. I'm glad you two are getting along, but no taking advantage of people just so you can play. Say yes if you understand.
Yes.
Both of them raised a hand and nodded firmly. Strangely, though being treated like a child should have bothered Subaru, seeing Amelia's pleasant, satisfied smile made such minor concerns irrelevant. Amelia, not noticing that Subaru had completely fallen for her smile, abruptly clapped her hands. Oh, right. That was good. Subaru, sit over here for a moment. Amelia sat on the grass with her legs out to the side, patting the ground beside her to invite Subaru over. You call, I come running. What? The timing's good for what exactly? No matter what you request, Subaru Natsuki leaves no itch unscratched. If there's a place you can't reach, just command me to scratch it and I shall obey. All I said was to sit beside me. That's a bigger reaction than I expected. What should I do? Unsurprisingly, Amelia made a pained smile at Subaru's fierce enthusiasm. Yesterday was your first day at work. How did it go? Did you do well? Ah, yeah. Failed at 80% of it. I see. You're certainly full of confidence. Eh? Failed? 80% of it? Maybe 80's overstating it. Maybe more like 6. No, 75. That still means you flunked a lot of things. Amelia acted like she felt responsible, somehow, for Subaru's unexpectedly low rating of his own work, but she immediately lifted her face in a show of concern. But, hey, that meant you got 20% of your work right on your first day, huh? That's fine. I'm sure it's all right. Be confident now. Hey, you're right. It's a long road, but if I start at 20%, I can raise that little by little from here. Don't be conceited. Reflect on it properly. If you're gonna start sweet, why can't you end sweet? No. It's nothing. Very sorry. Subaru, cowed by the pressure of Amelia's glare, shrank and nodded meekly. In any case, I do feel like I'm eating Ram and Rem's dust somehow. Getting 20% right while trying my best means that's just where I'm at, so no hoping it. I'll just expect better from myself going forward. If you're going to be that optimistic about it, there's nothing more I can say, but... Upon hearing Subaru's positive declaration, Amelia tapered her lips into something that resembled a pout. The cute, childlike behavior she indulged in from time to time never failed to light a fiery yearning in Subaru. But he restrained himself, smothering the embers. Subaru pointed at Amelia with a finger up from each hand in a comical gesture. So, you see, I'm spending every day with maid sisters tutoring me while I devote myself to life as a servant. If I get tired of that life, I'll just come running to Amelia Tan's lap. So leave it open, okay? I was only half listening to that, but it sounded kind of alright. Harsh assessment with a cute face. Well, if that half was the lap part, that's A-okay. Like I said, leave that laugh open for me for tonight, Amelia Tan. Don't steal my spot, Puck. Subaru thrust a finger at Puck, calling out his name. Puck reacted to the declaration of war with a casual flick of his own whiskers.
It doesn't matter what you say. Leah's pact with me means her heart and body are already mine. There's no changing our relationship, meow, meow.
Amelia grabbed Puck's ears for his incorrigible behavior and tossed him into the air to make him ponder the error of his ways. Goodness, don't change the terms of our pact behind my back. Maybe Puck was just used to it, for despite that, he simply landed in Amelia's hands and happily wriggled in them with a look of complete calm. Subaru couldn't help but feel envious of their relationship. Well, now that I've energized myself, I'd better start the morning work. What do you mean, energized yourself? By teasing Amelia Tan. There you go again. If all you do is tease people, they won't trust anything you say when you're actually telling the truth. You know? That sounds like something out of a fairy tale. If that happens, I guess I'll be reaping what I sowed. Wait, you're telling me that? With Amelia giving him an exasperated look, Subaru sent a bright smile back her way as he rose, brushing off his backside. They'll be seriously ticked if I don't get going, though. I'm supposed to help them with this morning's breakfast. Amelia Tan, you don't like eating green peppers, do you? I'll make sure they're not on your plate. You have to eat even the veggies you don't like. When did I tell you I don't like green peppers? Amelia tilted her head with a questioning look as Subaru departed with a little smile and a wave. She actually had talked to him about it. He'd even seen her distaste for them with his own eyes. He focused on staying on the path, always joking whenever Amelia set her eyes on him. He had to focus, always focus, to keep the smile on his face. Amelia watched Subaru wander off until he was out of sight before letting out a small sigh. Puck, watching Subaru from her palm, abruptly looked up when he realized Amelia was now watching him.
That's a gloomy face. What's wrong?
I just feel down somehow. I can't really put it into words. Amelia cringed at the wishy-washy attempt to express her internal unease. What caught in her throat didn't have a chance to become proper words as she sighed again. Puck's pink nose twitched as he watched Amelia's conflict.
You're worried about Subaru? It's not often you worry about other people like this.
Don't go off and phrase it like I'm some sort of klutz at dealing with people. I'm not bad at getting close to others. I just haven't had many chances to do it. Amelia puffed out her cheeks, an expression she refused to show to anyone save Puck. Though it looked like the act of a spoiled brat, it was a testament to Amelia's absolute faith in Puck. The spirit, fully accepting her trust, smiled up at her like she was his own daughter. He offered a nod toward the delicate emotions Amelia couldn't put into words.
Well, it's no surprise it's throwing you off, because this has become a little bit of a problem.
Bit of a problem? He said the words in a casual manner, but Amelia's face grew tense. She couldn't miss the tone behind them. By nature, Puck behaved exactly the same no matter how high pressure the situation. She didn't know if it was because he was a spirit, or if it was simply his personality that made him that way. But he reserved grave observations as a spirit to provide input for hard, important decisions, namely Amelia's. Seeing Amelia's breath catch, Puck casually toyed with his whiskers. He still spoke in his peculiar manner to the end.
I only touched him a little, but Subaru's mind is all scrambled. What he shows on the outside doesn't match the inside. At this rate, it won't be long before he reaches the end of his rope.
The high-pitched ting and the sound of pottery breaking made Ram's eyebrows shoot up in surprise. The young manservant, prancing around like a dancer, Subaru, raised his voice as he grabbed hold of a broom and dustpan. It's okay. Don't worry, I've got this. He quickly cleaned up the ceramic fragments scattered at his feet and pretended to wipe sweat off his brow. When he looked at Rem, who'd stared at him during the entire sequence, he flashed his teeth in a fiendish smile. Don't worry, I took care of it super fast, and there wasn't even one casualty.
I think your concern is praiseworthy, but were you not the one who dropped the vase, Subaru? I need to get a replacement vase, wipe the floor, put the flowers in order.
No, it's all right. I can get a vase and put the flowers in myself. Go ahead and focus on your own work. Driving Rem off, almost like he was ordering her, Subaru headed to the storage for furnishings and returned several minutes later with the proper vase. He promptly put the new vase in the same place as the old and added water and the flowers, returning things to as they were. Whew! Feels good to get a job done, Remrin.
It is extra work you made for yourself, but at least you took care of it. Subaru, where did you hear where the spare vases are? From sister?
Right. Your big sis. It's me we're talking about here. She was pretty sure I'd break one at some point, so she told me in advance exactly where to get a new vase. Listening to the clumsy excuse, Rem did not think. that his sister for you, such foresight. She was less concerned with the face, and more with the fact that Subaru had such a grasp of the mansion's layout that he'd retrieved the broom and dustpan to clean the broken vase with, then gone to grab a spare, without any hesitation. Rem really doubted someone working for only a day or two could do such a thing. That said, rather than raise her suspicions, "You all right? You're so swamped with work. Go ahead and send some my way. I'll do it. I'll do anything." He was so friendly about it that she just couldn't put a finger on the problem. It was not the behavior of someone bearing malice or hostility, but neither was it how a guileless person behaved. More to the point, for someone hiding something, his facade was riddled with openings. He looked like he was genuinely trying to get used to the job and attempting to get along well with Rem and Ram. Rem knitted her brow, looking like she was warding off the emotions bearing down on her at his earnestness. The sight of Subaru striving so hard, even when no one acknowledged it, stirred up a throbbing ache in her chest.
Subaru.
Oh, I forgot the work Ramsey asked me to do. Sorry, I'd better hurry up and take care of that. I'll hook back up with you right after. Subaru rushed into the hallway, faster than she could call out to stop him. Rem withdrew the fingers she reached out to him with, looking over her shoulder as if she should discuss her misgivings with her older sister. But
no, it is not enough to trouble sister over.
Rem walked toward her own workspace, trying to wrap up her remaining work and reduce the lingering ache in her chest in the process. I feel sick. Oh, Ramchi, did you see me? I'm doing pretty well with the kitchen knife after just one day of learning it, huh? Maybe my talent is taking bloom. I feel sick. I feel sick. I feel sick. Remren, look! Right now, my fingers are miraculously imbued with a skill that makes such fine workmanship possible. The power of illusion. I feel sick. 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 Meeting Emiliaton really puts my heart in a jumble. It's too sinful. I feel so guilty. I feel sick. 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 He kept a smile nailed to his face as he continued trying to sound playful. He wrestled with his entrusted tasks full force, resolutely attacking problems with no fear of failure. And when he was done, he wandered around looking for more to do. He had to. He needed to. He didn't have a single second to waste. It was like a video game where you simulated in your head every potential outcome to a particular event. He had to manage the event flags. That was his specialty, right? The more he encountered them, the better his odds. I should be able to make them smile more. I should be able to make them laugh more. His actions were meaninglessly exaggerated. He tried to convince them he was an oblivious fool. He tried not to make them think he was useless. His head spun and spun, always weighing his actions. Subaru constantly kept watch for anything that seemed remotely out of the ordinary. He couldn't let his guard slip for a single instant, never mind a second. I can't make a mistake. I just can't. I can't. Warning bells rang without pause in his head and repeating things over and over. Danger, danger, they announced. He hadn't advanced an inch since reaching this other world. but he felt his sensitivity to peril, at least, had grown more acute. See, Ramchi, I'm not slacking off here. I'm totally doing so much work. Almost enough that my superior could just go back to her room and take a nap, you know? He evaded the situation with an irregular approach, casually glossing things over with a charming smile. He wondered if he really could do it. Could Subaru Natsuki really pull this off? He hadn't given them reason to doubt him, had he? He paid 10, no, 100 times more attention, not only in front of Ram, but Rem as well. He played Subaru Natsuki, erasing the unnatural with the natural. It was simple. It was all up to him. He had to not pay the slightest bit of attention to what anyone living in the mansion really thought, bathing himself in innocence and lack of restraint, until he seemed like a lazy pig who took whatever was given unto him. As far as the world was concerned, he knew nothing, could do nothing, notice nothing, and that was all there was to him. He continued to loiter about, wearing his charming grin like a mask. He was inside the mansion. He didn't know who would pop out or when. His free time wasn't free. He spent all his spare time examining his past actions and forming plans for what he'd do in the hours to come. He suddenly felt the urge to throw up. A slight moan slipped from the corner of his mouth, but Subaru's smile did not falter whatsoever. He kept his expression steady, skipping as he walked, practically dancing his way as he slipped into the nearest guest room. And he stepped over to the room's lavatory when... The contents of his already empty stomach poured out. He vomited up every bit of the food and drink that had entered his body. That time, everything came out as sticky yellow stomach acid, and the internal pain that had made him spew it all continued to ache. The nausea wouldn't go away. He gulped down running water until he was full, and expelled it immediately afterward. This repeated several times, his stomach heaving like it was cleaning itself out. Subaru roughly wiped his mouth with his sleeve, his pale face and his breath ragged. The pressure was killing him. If he kept this up without any time to rest his mind, he felt like he'd waste away and expire from that alone. He wanted to laugh at himself for putting himself in this situation, but not even the faintest smile would form on his lips. All that welled up from within his chest was anxiety and despair. Am I really pulling it off? The time he'd gotten along with everyone best was during that first loop, when he knew nothing. From the second loop on, he'd been so obsessed with the first loop that it caused problems in his work and personal relations. That was probably a major reason why he hadn't earned the sister's trust. Consequently, Subaru was using the first loop as his model this time around. That said, he'd failed in the second loop by trying to copy the first. That meant he had to do things better than the first time. Meaning, all he had to do was put everything into any work he found in front of him and do well at it. But that still only gets me 50 points. Can't get 100 if I don't figure out who the shaman is. Nearly evading death by the sister's hands wouldn't protect Subaru from the menace of the shaman. On the morning of the 5th day, someone in the mansion would be crying. It might be over Subaru. It might be over Rem. Subaru really wanted to get information on the shaman, to turn it over to the others so they could plan a counterattack. But he could not. Even if he suggested courses of action, he didn't trust him enough to act on them yet. He also couldn't divulge the source of his information. And Subaru would get a little taste of hell if he broke the prohibition on speaking to others about return by death. Pain scared him. What terrified him even more was meeting the fingertips of that black cloud. He had to win the others' trust and expose the shaman's identity. Time was extremely short, enough to make him feel like the walls were closing in. He had to do something, but he was rushing down a blind alley. The night before, he'd been held captive by that vortex of helplessness, unable to get a wink of sleep, no answer forthcoming. He felt powerless, having well-founded reasons for the anxiety, but being unable to find any solution for it. He paid with his life to come back, yet there he was, an incapable fool. Ah, damn it. I'm being pathetic. He couldn't fail here. His back was against the wall. Even if it was a life he'd thrown away, a life that ought to have been over, he was afraid of losing it again. It was his 5th time. Even Subaru wasn't optimistic enough to think he could come back again. His spirit was in tatters from his mind continually being bashed. If he wasn't at the brink, he wouldn't have made the decision to struggle with all his might. He simply lacked the courage. He was mediocre, ordinary in every way. The more he learned how small a person he truly was, the more he grew to despise himself. Stupid, stupid. This isn't the time to whine and cry. If he had had time to complain, then he had had time to run his frivolous mouth and make a better impression. Shaking off his nausea, Subaru slapped his stiff cheeks in self-rebuke and headed out of the guest room. It was free time right now, but he didn't have a moment for a break. He couldn't waste a second on rest. He had to find where Ram and Rem had gone and I finally found you. He was putting his thoughts in order when he heard someone call to him from behind. When he looked back, he saw Amelia standing there, breathing slightly heavily. The instant Subaru set eyes on Amelia, his mind clicked and switched to a different gear. He forgot all about the pain in his stomach, the ache in his chest, and the stifling feeling, turning everything toward Amelia. His cheeks bent into a smile. Oh, Amelia-tan calling me by name. I'm happy, embarrassed. It's so rare. Your word is my command. I will pass through fire and water for you, even loot cellars. Subaru shoved his emotions to the back of his mind for Amelia, with a lot more verve than was necessary. He prided himself on quick comebacks, but Amelia had a different reaction to seeing it than he had expected. He expected an exasperated look and a sigh or something, but instead... Subaru? Wait, now. If you're the Amelia-tan I know, you should be... Are you an imposter? But could someone else really copy a beautiful girl wrapped in such an adorable package? His ridiculous humor invited amazement, but Amelia's reaction to even this was muted. Defying all his expectations, Amelia looked at Subaru, her eyes filled with pity. Not good, his instincts warned him. Eh? You've gone quiet. This isn't some sort of prank you're playing on a guy who gets carried away on tangents, right? You know, like me? This is wrong, said a voice inside his brain, over and over. Amelia wasn't shocked or angry. She was simply staring at Subaru with pained eyes. I wonder if the comedian's mask I'm wearing slipped somehow. The instant worry wormed its way in, as Subaru remembered the kitty cat always hovering by Amelia's side. That cat was also a spirit, able to read the subconscious thoughts of others. It was only then that Subaru realized that the jig was up. The charming smile plastered onto his face vanished, replaced by a look like that of a child, fearful of being scolded. What a joke. She'd seen through him time and time again while he danced in an effort to hide it all. More than that, Amelia was the one he least wanted to know. His tiny bit of pride, pulling at the wool over his eyes, was destroyed. A silence fell between them. Subaru could no longer find words to say. Amelia looked like she was trying to find some herself, without success. I'm disappointing, Amelia. I didn't want that to happen, above all else. But Subaru didn't know what excuse he could form. He opened his mouth several times, stopping each time, unable to find the right words. Seeing words fail Subaru, Amelia abruptly murmured, "All right," to herself quietly before continuing. "Subaru, come with me." Just come." Amelia grabbed Subaru's arm, dragging him along into the guest room right beside them. A questioning look came over Subaru about going back to the room he just left. But Amelia left Subaru hanging as she put her hands on her hips and looked around the room. When she pointed at the floor, her voice rang like a silver bell, as always. "All right, Subaru. Sit." He followed her finger downward. The carpeted floor belonged to a room no one was using, but was cleaned regularly nonetheless. Granted, it was soft enough to sleep on, but if I'm going to be sitting, why not the bed or a chair? Why the floor specific? Just sit already! Yes, with pleasure. Cowed by the strong tone she had never used, Subaru dove onto the floor without hesitation and sat properly on his knees. Amelia nodded, apparently satisfied, and stood right beside him. Naturally, this left Subaru looking up at Amelia from a submissive position, but wicked thoughts never entered his mind. Instead, he was desperately trying to figure out what her intentions were. Amelia's voice sounded quietly from her throat. "Okay." She seemed to have said it for her own benefit. Amelia took a deep breath and sat right beside Subaru, kneeling just as he was. Subaru's heart thumped at Amelia sitting within touching distance, but his sideways glance at her pale face could not tell him what she was thinking. He belatedly realized that her cheeks were flushed. Even her ears were red. "This is a special occasion, all right?" Eh? Something pressed against the back of Subaru's head faster than he could properly voice his doubts. Already kneeling, his body offered no resistance as it bent forward, until a very soft sensation hit him. The position's a little awkward and, kind of prickly. Something shifted around under his head as he heard Amelia's fairly bashful-sounding voice from right overhead. In surprise, he looked up. The sight before him made his eyes go wide. Right above him, Amelia's face was so close they were almost touching. His eyes reflected a beautiful face that was inverted. Subaru pleadingly grasped. Oh, I'm upside down looking up at her. This distance, her upside down position, the soft sensation under his head. Subaru mentally searched for terms to describe it and found exactly one. Lap? Pillow? It's embarrassing, so please don't say it out loud. And you're not allowed to look this way. Close your eyes. She gave his forehead a light slap, using the palm of her hand to cover his eyes, obstructing his field of vision. However, Subaru moved Amelia's resting hand aside and dragged the words out. Amelia-tan, you're the best when you're embarrassed. But what is this? When did I do something to earn a reward like this? You don't need to put up that front right now. She smacked his forehead again, but this time Amelia left her hand on it, stroking Subaru's hair with her fingers. He squinted at the ticklish feeling. You asked me to let you rest on my lap when you were tired, didn't you, Subaru? So that's what I'm doing. It won't be like this all the time, but today's special. Special? Come on, it's not even the end of the second day here. My body's not weak enough to kneel over from overwork that fast. I can tell you're beat up just by looking at you. You won't go into the details and tell me, will you? I don't think this will make everything better, but it's the only thing I can do, so... Her compassionate gaze made it hard to brush her off. Her fingers had parted his black hair. She began to gently stroke his forehead like he was a little boy. Subaru burst out laughing and tried to twist away from Amelia's fingertips. He had promised himself to stay strong in front of Amelia, to say this was all misunderstanding, to say he wouldn't do anything as unseemly and uncool as that. Amelia-tan, you doing that for me. Yet his voice was shrill. His throat caught, and the next words wouldn't come out. Subaru couldn't switch mental gears when he felt her soft fingertips stroking his forehead. You're tired, aren't you? I can still do more. I'm totally all right. Have you been having trouble? You're being so nice to me. I mean, I'm gonna blush. If you keep doing that, I'm gonna... Subaru's reply to her brief question sounded like complete lies. Even he could tell that his words sounded hollow and empty. Then Amelia gently drew her face close to Subaru's. It's been hard for you, hasn't it? She sounded like she pitied him. She sounded like she sympathized with him. She sounded like she cared for him. That was all it took for Subaru's walls to collapse. They crumbled, fell apart, and came crashing down all at once. All the powerful emotions he tried to keep bottled up hadn't gone away in the slightest and came rushing out. It was hard. It was really rough. I was really scared. I was really sad. Enough that I thought I was going to die. It hurt so much. Yeah. I tried. I really tried. I did everything I could. I desperately tried to do everything right. I did. Really. I've never tried to do anything that hard before. Yeah, I know. It's because I like it here. This place is precious to me. That's why I was dying to have it back. I was afraid. I was so afraid to see that day again. And I hated it. I hated myself for that. He couldn't control his emotions. The initial explosion had blown the dam wide open. A huge deluge of tears marring the smiling mask over his cowardly face. The tears wouldn't stop. His nose was runny. His mouth was awash in some sort of weird liquid as Subaru's sobbing became harder to listen to with each passing moment. It was a sorry sight. A grown man with his head on a girl's lap, bawling his eyes out. It was pathetic enough that he could die, but the warmth filling him might just kill him, too. Amelia made gentle sounds of understanding as she listened to Subaru weep. There was no way she actually understood what Subaru was saying, and yet the kindness of her voice brought relief to Subaru's heart. He didn't understand why. Maybe he just wanted it to be so. But it was true nonetheless. That Subaru felt saved by her warmth. And so, a flood of tears flowed from Subaru as he continued to cry on Amelia's lap. He cried, he wailed, and at some point, the sobs faded into the distance. The only noise that filled the guest room after was the sound of quiet sleep. As Subaru sank into slumber, he felt the presence of heat deep inside his chest. Subaru knew now what that emotion was. The throbbing in Subaru's chest had grown stronger each time he looked at Amelia, spoke with her, felt the touch of her fingertips. But he hadn't had a name for it before. When he thought of her, his body was afflicted by hot pangs of that troublesome illness known as love. Once a person became aware of it, he lost all will to fight against the disease. Subaru was no exception. After all, no matter how much he got hurt, no matter what pain he endured, no matter how often he tasted despair, it was all to save Amelia. Everything was so he could spend his days walking by Amelia's side. Even if Subaru Natsuki died again and again, that love would live on. Amelia was gently stroking Subaru's hair as he slept when Rem arrived at the guest room. Opening the door without a sound, Rem saw Amelia inside and opened her mouth, but she closed it when Amelia put a finger to her own lips. Shh. Rem narrowed her eyes a bit, walking over as she looked at the two of them nestled close together on the floor. Subaru is merely asleep? Yes. He's a little boy. He looks so peaceful when I stroke his head like this. Amelia seemed to enjoy petting Subaru, as she prodded Rem for agreement. Rem replied with a quiet shake of her head. It seems Subaru will not be able to work any further today. Yeah, he gets the rest of today off. He's a very naughty boy for taking time off on his second day. When he's all better, make sure to punish him, okay? Amelia made a small smile and returned to toying with Subaru's head. She appeared to have no intention of moving the sleeping Subaru to free up her legs. Rem, reading Amelia's intent, quietly looked down at Subaru, who seemed to be deeply asleep. He looked so innocent. There was not even the slightest trace of tension on his childlike face. It was completely different from his strained attempt at lightheartedness when last they spoke during work. It was enough to make her earlier suspicion seem incredibly stupid. It is hard to think of that when you see him sleeping like this, though. Rem seemed to be murmuring that more to herself than to Amelia, as she gave Subaru's hair a light caress with her fingers. His ignorance of the world, like an innocent babe, made Rem's lips slacken just a little. I will inform Sister that Subaru is of no use for today. We must reallot today's chores. Rem left things at that, bowing politely as she turned to leave. She started to go find her sister. Around this time, she would still be cleaning up the dining hall. There, they would rearrange their schedule for the day. Rem? Abruptly called, Rem stopped and gently turned her whole body around. Amelia was sitting below her on the floor. In spite of that, Rem mysteriously felt a powerful pressure coming from Amelia's gaze, like Rem was the one who stood lower. Amelia, not noticing Rem's small measure of surprise, spoke in a quiet voice. Subaru is a good boy. Rem responded with a single, solemn bow. Then, without another word, she headed to the door and left Subaru and Amelia behind in the guest room. She mulled over Amelia's statement as she walked down the hallway. Even Rem did not notice the slight tremble on the side of her neutral visage. But the faintest trace of a vile odor remained lodged in a corner of Rem's mind. Finishing up chapter 1. I guess you can call this one your extra long episode, because I didn't do one for the first, or normally I do. I mean, I guess I could have put this on the first. This is going up. I'm recording this a day before the first one's going up. Man, this last part, man, I love the psychological chunk. Yeah, if you can hear the dogs in this, good on you. I've been working around them on this last, 2 minutes, for half an hour, editing, and oh my goodness, these dogs. I swear. Well, that out of the way. Thank you for listening. Thank you for starting Volume 1. I'm really liking where this is going, seeing some of the inner thoughts of Subaru that I haven't seen before, and I love it. It's great. Like I said before, I'm trying to mess around with speeds. Hopefully that sounds good. Getting some fast, some slow. I'm gonna mess around with that some more. Hopefully, getting into this book, I didn't just completely blow your eardrums out, because I kind of realized, oh yeah, I got a new mic on this one, as you can hear, so the volume's a bit different. I'm gonna shut up now, so you can get on to the next part, assuming it's up. And thank you for listening. Like if you liked it, subscribe if you would, tell your friends about it if you think they'd like it. And I suppose I'll see you guys next time. Bye.